Okay, I've got some good questions here to cover. There's 6 questions and there's a picture. When I just learned something new, you can apparently throw in a background image here. So using this, it's not as flexible as I'd like, um, but at least I can kind of get it in here all on one screen for now. So yeah, um, there are a lot of ways to do things in Houdini. So I'm gonna kind of tackle this the ways that I know how, but surely there are other ways and arguably possibly better ways to go about what I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to walk down the list here. So basically, the premise is that other modeling programs are easier to work with in regards to complicated shapes, and that is true. So like there is um, what is it called? Some shapes, like especially organic ones, like with the swan head, the beak of the swan. I sculpted it in some sculpting program on my tablet and then imported it in after the fact because I just couldn't get the shapes in. I was using a program called Shaper, which was used for like engineering stuff. So each modeling program has its strengths and weaknesses. Like likewise, in a sculpting program, you're not going to be able to get hard edges as easily. Like it's a lot easier to do hard edges in almost any other modeling program, but a sculpting program is like terrible for hard edges. So it's kind of like, I mean, it seems like you need more than one. Houdini does have sculpt nodes. I haven't messed with them before, so um, I've yet to. I mean, this is probably a bad idea. I haven't even done this before, but let me see. Left mouse button displacement. And yeah, I have no idea how to use this because I haven't used a sculpt tool before in Houdini, but they do have one, so it's possible to do sculpting in here as well. But I'll have to approach that another time. It's not really relevant for this model. So we'll start with the first thing I want to start with is pipes, because that's one I'm really familiar with, and so that one is super easy. So like I can just create a line, and let me start with that line, and then we can get a sweep node. And let me make sure there's enough points here. Um, so let's see, sweep. This might not be enough points. Let me check. There's 2. Let's do a resample. So the thing with the sweep node is it needs more points to work with. Let's see, blue, and then you can like mess with the thickness and stuff. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. Where's the size? I want to say it's start points. Okay, I can increase the points here too. Usually you need like a certain number of points, and then usually I just run a sweep over these, and that'll do it. Maximum mark. So the resample may not even be necessary if I can shaft points. Yeah, why are you complaining? Like you normally. Oh, duh. Okay, yeah, you need a cross section geometry. I'm getting mixed up. So there's the line, and then this second one here, you want some kind of shape to run through. So like if we do this, normally for a pipe you would do a circle. So you can grab circle here, and then you can just like throw this on. And so like that is like the easiest way to make a pipe. Now this looks terrible, right? It doesn't look like a pipe at all. So like we can increase the length of this. We can mess with the size of this shape here, and you're starting to get more of that pipe feel. And it doesn't have to be circular. Like even though this is a circle, you can mess with is it divisions? Yeah. So you can kind of get, and of course it breaks down at some point. So like 3 kind of being a minimum, and then this more you go up, and you can go up really high. Like you get a much smoother thing. And so like say you wanted to do sculpting, for example, you would want to have something like this first. Lots of points to manipulate and bend, and then you could mess around with it. I haven't had to do sculpting in this one, like I mentioned before, but anyways, this is the simplest form of a pipe. Now this is really dull because it doesn't do anything. But like if I wanted to, like say, replicate this pipe here, um, and this one's these are going straight, so these are actually not too bad. But what is a curve? Okay, yeah, there it is. So see like that curve, right? So to do this pipe in Houdini, what I would do is I'd pick a dimension like this one. This dimension over here is better. And I would get a curve node and draw it. And you really don't even have to draw with a curve node. So there's a Bezier curve here. So I'm just going to slide this guy over here. Oh gosh, this is trying to get better about this. Gosh, oh, I guess it's selected. No, it's not selected. I see it. That's what I was trying to click this. It's not letting me. I don't know why it's not giving me the. I guess you can't title notes. Okay. And this is item 5 here. We'll say 5A. That's one option. So this is one option. So another option is using curve. So let's run through that. It's going to be very similar. So you can kind of pull this over here, right? And just like slap this in there. And I don't want that to happen. Let's go to you. Yeah. So now we have this kind of base shape here. So we come here to this curve. And we have it set to blue there, so you can kind of see it real time. So we're going to start by turning on this edit handle thing. And then I don't know, wherever you want the pipe to start, right? Like it's up to you. So maybe it's down here. And then I can just click on the end of it. So maybe it's over here. And so now we have a pipe. I don't think I should escape. Let me go to this edit. Select it, put small. I think it's this one. Yeah. So I guess this is like one way to, oh gosh. Control Z. No, I don't want to add another point. You can switch to this edit mode here. So I can kind of grab this, add this smooth guy, and you can start like bending it. So this is wacky. This is just a issue with the UI. So Control Z, and then you can kind of like move this around. So what you can see here is like this curve isn't sufficiently, it doesn't have enough points to get that specific bend down. So this is just using 2 points. So let's try a different one. So I'm just going to copy the whole thing over, and we're gonna do a different curve. I can't like delete this very easily. Like I can click on these points, I guess, and hit delete, and maybe that works. Yeah, it looks like it did. But I don't know. I never feel confident in like what it's doing to the data, so I usually just make a brand new node if I'm gonna make a new drawing. So, all right, so here we go. So now we're gonna do the same thing, but instead of doing 2 points, we're gonna add a point about where we think we're gonna bend it. And so like here, I'm gonna escape. I'm gonna go back to this. Hold on. Okay, so we're gonna go to the edit mode, and let me find this. I need to make sure this handle's on. And click on this guy. Okay, so now we have this node selected. We have this edit mode on, and then we have this show the handle. So you need all of those to get this. So now we have this, and we can, same thing, wackiness, Control Z. Once you do it once, then it seems to be fine, but you just kind of have to keep that in mind. Now we don't want it to be just a simple point like this hard edge here. So we'll fix this by putting a curve. And then you can kind of mess with these handles. And so that's, yeah, maybe this is too thick, right? Let me shrink this down a little bit more. This is like really fine. So I'm middle mouse clicking. Just gonna make it thinner than the template so I can see better. Come back in here. So this is like one way to deal with curves. And, you know, you can get pretty controlled. I could add more than 3 points. So like, you know, sometimes you want to do something crazier. Like I saw some other curves in here. Let me come look at this in full again. I saw some like right here. Yeah, like those. So like this right here, these are a lot more advanced. Like you could probably do the same thing and then multiply them and like what is it called? Using a copy stamp node. Because this is really cool too, by the way. But yeah, you could do that and then like, you know, merge them together or something. So like for something like that, let's take this guy here. So we have this sweep node, and say we wanted to like kind of splay it similarly to to what you had there with like that twist. And man, this gets a little crazy. Do copy stamp. Copy and transform is similar. So if we do this, and I don't know, let's make like 6, I guess. And then we're going to do a translate. All right, so that's moving it somewhere. Let's see it. Okay, yeah, here we go. So it's moving it out, but probably not far enough. It's kind of strong, so I didn't mean to rotate. That's not going the way I want. 0. There we go. So we can like kind of arrange it like this and then twist it. And there's a twist node, which I'm pretty bad at using the twist node. I've had a bad time using it, but this is something I've seen people do. And it might even be better. In some cases, it's better to do the twist first and then copy it, you know? So like, yeah, sometimes it's an order of operations issue where like maybe before copy we twist, and so we can kind of switch the order around. So for now, because it's going to treat all this as a single unit, let me see, this one has like handles and stuff you can mess with. Let's see. Yeah, I see, like I don't have a good time using this. I need it to twist like the other way. And I'm actually thinking that it needs to happen before the copy. So like we need to create a kind of, I need it to rotate on its own axis, like not like some global, which is, something I'm not super familiar with. Because right now you can see it's twisting it like in the wrong way. Like we have the wrong dimension. And so this is deformable. So this like capture direction here is at the z-axis. So we can try make it the y-axis. Let's go here. Yeah. So that's probably more accurate, but still capture length. Something like, yeah, I don't know, 2.3. So yeah, this kind of like some tinkering around with this is, yeah, they're kind of it's getting a little bit closer. Like, see how you're getting but it's also too wide. Like, see how it's barreling around. So there's, yeah, so we got that, but it needs to be like a lesser distance there. So I haven't had like the best success working with this tool. Um, I tend to, for twists like this, what I'll tend to do is I'll actually manipulate the curve itself. Which I think I have an example of in here, but this is, again, a lot of ways to skin a cat. So this is the one way I did it, which it's that little red spot up there because it's taking a second to cook this. Okay, so this circle here, so we start out with some points, and it did it, yeah, freaking is showing everything. Okay, so this circle here is going to be a collection of points, and I have this many divisions, and then I coil it like with this motion here, and so you can, with this, to me, this is like more straightforward than messing around with that bend tool or the twist tool. So there's, again, a lot of ways to skin the cat, and I can change this shape by messing around with these parameters here and messing with the algorithm. And so that's one way to kind of create more fluidy shapes. And so if I took this, so let me grab it. Oh yeah, there's also the polywire. So you, instead of using sweep, so I'm just going to pull all that in here so we have it to play with. So here's this guy, right? And then, I don't know, I can just mess with this. You kind of get different results. So this one's a much looser curve. Whoops, I have a habit of pressing enter. So you get like, see that kind of wavy there? So that's resembling more what was had in there in this other thing. So like as a base shape, if you had this and, a polywire works the same as doing a sweep. And so polywire, I think, is like a shortcut, and maybe you can click into it. it doesn't let you, but that's okay. So we have polywire, and if we didn't want to do the polywire and we wanted to do sweep, we could do that. So if we went here, you see it does virtually the same thing. It's just, got this shape over here. So that's how you can make pipes. Effectively, you want to get a line and then pass it into either polywire or the sweep. If you do sweep, then you provide your own shape, and polywire kind of does it for you. So, and I couldn't tell you why you would use one over the other exactly. I think it's more of like what I'm thinking of at the time. But there might be a case where it makes sense to use one over the other. Thing with Houdini is sometimes they have a lot of legacy stuff in there. So there's like copy, stamp, and copy and transform, and these do almost the same thing, and sometimes they are the same thing. Like, let me see. Yes, like if you look at this, the parameters are like slightly different, and there's different use cases for them. Like one of them is better about moving attributes over, while the other one doesn't really consider attributes. Like this one doesn't consider attributes. So it's there's sometimes there's things like that. With polywire, it doesn't seem to be one of those complicated cases. Like, perhaps it is. Like in this one offers more control, and this one's just more simplified. So those are some kind of, for the most part, you don't have to get into that as much. But if it comes up and you start finding yourself doing like really complicated things, there are times where one node could solve the problem, and it's not really a right or wrong answer, even if you do it the more complex way. It's just as long as you figure it out, then you're good. So okay, so we have this guy here, right? And we'll run off the polywire version, and so we can do this copy stamp and like kind of splay it out. There are also, I should mention, because I'm showing like how to do this like yourself, like kind of manually. Let me create some copies of this. So you can kind of start getting, that geo. Maybe you just want 3. Do another copy of those 3. It's translated like another dimension. Is this Y? Let's try Z. Yeah. So it's a little bit closer. It's not as it's like a lot cleaner, I guess. Like it's not as handcrafted looking, and so we can try to warp, I think, bend. This bend node, bend, warp, twist, I think they're all the same. Like when you look at the documentation for twist and bend, like it's so nice. Like they just like have this simple shape and then they curl it around. It's like, oh, it's so cool, like that you can do that. But when I use it, I get stuff like this, and it's really annoying because you have to set up the capture regions, right? So, and here we are back at using the tool after I said it. I didn't like using it, but I think like if you can figure out how to use it, like you could twist this structure like in a smaller way. It's like you set up a smaller control zone and like get that same kind of effect. Um, so that's one way to deal with it. Another way is like hand drawing all those curves, which is typically what I do now is I'll hand draw the curves, and it's not so uniform like this. And I do have an example. Yeah, I guess so. I have an example in here as well in the wind engine where I hand draw a bunch of curves like in, yeah, Gizmo wires here. So please just show me the curves. Yeah, okay. So like here, I just hand drew these, and because I kind of like that feel. So I hand drew these, and then I did the poly wire and all that to get it to turn into wire. So there's a number of ways to make pipes or wires. They're effectively the same thing, and there are tools that can simplify this. Like there's HDAs or pre-built tools. Like I think you can buy some even. Like people have made some to where you could just draw a line, and it'll automatically put in like joints and stuff. I made a tool that does this, and the way it works is. And I'll kind of recreate it here just quickly. Let me see. I'll start with a simple curve like this guy. Okay. So this guy here has 3 points. And then there's this sweep node that's making the pipe. And I don't, maybe I should delete this twist for now so I don't do anything. All right. So we have this sweep that creates the pipe. Let me get rid of these. Oh, actually, I do want to see the points. Okay. Now what we want to do is put in some kind of like a joint. And if we take a look at the original geo here, some of the areas of the pipe have joints like this. All right, so this one is special because it's going in 2 different directions. And so I'm not going to make that. I'm going to make one that's just like this or something. It's just going in, it's just like a one direction joint. So it doesn't have any sense for like crossing over other pipes. You could write in logic like that and say like this right here is just like fused together. Maybe you could use a joint, like for example. But it wouldn't know that, like this system I'm about to create real quick. So it's very simple to just detect the points. So like right here we have, let's click on curve. Yeah, right here it's got, how many points is that? It's showing all of these handles as points too. Okay. Let me see if I can get some attributes in that. I am not able to easily get attributes. Okay, so what we can do is this copy to points thing node here, and so there is a target points copy to, and then geometry. So we can go here, and then we can make a just like a simple tube for now. Let's put some end caps on it. Take a look. Let's just keep that on. Actually, keep it on this template mode. So this tube, where is it? Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's huge. Let's shrink it down. Something much smaller. It's got some end caps. That's cool. The facing direction, hopefully, yeah, I think it does matter. So we can come here. So it's going to do this copy to points, and we can merge the geo result. So okay, so this is what we get for by default here when we do copy to points. Is what you see is all the points from this guy are the locations where it's spawning, but we don't want it to spawn on these handles here. So we need to find a way to like flag the curves. And so there's a couple things. I'm just do a resample actually. I think this is what I did last time. So I did a resample, and okay. So if we come to just look at the resample, it has done this to the wire, and what we can mess with is this line segment here. So if I increase it, let me decrease it. Let's make this line like really simple. So what we're doing is we're transforming that data. Oh, gosh, it's so bad. All right, so so it's really rough, but it's a crappy version of our line. And so now when we copy to points, we get this. And so now we can kind of get like these joints, and they're not, this isn't very fancy, but I'm trying to move fast, so it's the best I can do in a short amount of time right now. All right, so here's this, and then you can see like there's a problem with the rotation, right? Like, maybe we want it to be facing the right direction. Yeah, this is this rotation here. So yeah, but if we rotate one to fix this one, now it messes up these because it's just being copied straight over. So what we'd have to do is orient this whole shape based on the normal for these resamples. So if we come here and we look at the normals, there are no normals. We can tell because when we display normals, it's not showing anything. So we can create normals for this resample. We can find the direction by pointing to like the next point, by aiming at the next point. And I would do this with a wrangle node, and I don't have the code off the top of my head. I've done it before with my other pipe tool. And what it would do is it would find the next point, and it would look at it and take that that value and set it as the normal, and then this guy would rotate based on the normal. And so I'm trying to figure out when I did that rotation. I think, was it copy to points? Could have been either been a for loop or maybe it was a simple copy to points. But I think in a worst case, it's a for loop, and then it would change this guy's rotation effectively by, and that's how you can kind of clean this up so it's not so messy. But and so yeah, so at this point everything has normals, but well, you can use normals in other ways, like before you get to the final geo, and so you can get some more. This is a really bad pipe, but you can spend more time and make cleaner ones. And what's nice is once you come up with this system, well, then all you have to do is manipulate this curve here, and then the pipe just works with it. So like if we come back and we find that in this edit mode, yeah, here we go. Yeah, so you can do this, and yeah, remember it always screws up. So you can make like whatever shape pipe you need to fit the case, and you can kind of see like the what are these called? The joint pieces are kind of automatically being created for you, and so the rules can get more sophisticated. Like these are bad rules because it's like facing a dumb way, but that's how you can work with this. Um, so yeah, this another way to make pipes. Curve. Okay, grab all this. Just put all this in one spot. Okay, so that's one of the pipes. Um, Pipes. Let's go back. So that one I've spent a lot of time on, and there's actually man, I'm tempted to open up the 3D cards. Give me a second. Okay, so I went on pause for a second and pulled up an old file for the 3D cards. So this is the rare. Is this legendary or epic? This is the rare card model. So what you have here is the same thing I showed you a moment ago, but the difference is that you'll notice that these little welds are kind of following the pipe. And the way it did that was what I described before with the normals. And this whole thing is made of pipes. So like, I have some little ones here, and you can see the algorithm break down with this kind of curves. And so some of the curves, like, it seems to have more joints, and this works for the like simple cartoony style. So it's not very realistic, but it does work stylistically. So just be warned that you can improve the algorithm. But here it is right here, and so I'll actually pull this out and I'll put it in the other file as well. But effectively, let's break this down. So let's start with one, this large tube here, and the is similar here. You'll see a circle, and then I got a poly extrude where I'm creating this this joint shape, and I didn't put a ton of effort into this because it's whatchamacallit. We're kind of like the level of detail, the camera angle and stuff, like it's just not gonna be super visible. I guess I was doing something else here because this merge node serves no purpose. The shrink is, well, I just named it shrink, but it's a transform node. And then this gives it the group name so we can have it for colors later. And then we have our curve node where I just hand drew it on the card. And then we do a poly bevel on this, which it smooths the line out. So this is similar to doing resample. So you see this here, and then there's poly bevel. But the difference is that resample is kind of crude. Like it resample can just do a simple length distance, but this one is a little bit better. Like it tries to keep the smoothness, and so poly bevel can be a better approach. And then blast gets rid of these offset points. So like, see this here as this like output group, and so we use this and using the carve tool, which I forget exactly what this is doing. I remember this being important. This was a long time ago. Ooh, man, I wish I could remember what this did. Yeah, see, like, I don't even remember what that does. But I do remember this, the polyframe. Okay, so earlier I was talking about the normals. And so, like, up until this point, there weren't normals. And so this gets those added so that we can use this copy to points here. And then we get that because it's able, this copy to points here is able to handle the normal transfer. So, like, in this here, I feel like remove this. Let me see. I think that'll break it. Nope, it didn't break it like I thought it would. It's not in, so that's not it. See, where's, I'm trying to break it to where it goes back to the way it was. Like if we take out carve, kind of see what it's doing. Polyframe will definitely break it. See that? So adding those normals in gets it to work. And I guess carve is just like maybe a kind of correction in some cases. So that seems to help under some edge circumstances. If we don't pass this tangent in, and we can create our own tangent using a wrangle node, but it looks like there were some nodes that help do that already. So we do this part here to get just the pieces, and then we combine it with the pipe, and we get the full thing. And so that's like one approach. Now, the same logic can be used for more sophisticated pipes, right? So like you don't just have to have these welds. It could get more complex. Like you could check the distance between. Let's go to polybo. So like reducing it down, right? Let's look at this. You could say check the distance between this point, and if it's close enough, maybe you fuse it together and make like a nozzle or something. Like you can really get as sophisticated as you want with the logic, because you can put different groups or name these points differently, change their normals, and procedurally generate these pipes on the fly. And then by changing this curve here, let me see. So this is I guess primitive type polygon. That's probably important. I think I had issues using Bezier curves because I didn't use resample. So if you're not using resample, you can do a polygon. But anyways, so I can come here, edit mode. Yeah, look how many. It looks a little confusing. Let me turn that off. For some reason it's showing. Oh, it's because I have this selected. So let me go here. Here we go. Yeah, it's showing the poly bevel. So then I can like mess with this, and it'll update that pipe in real time. So it's really handy. And I'm messing with it in the 3D window. But yeah, so yeah, it's a way to make pipes. If I keep pulling it, I think that point's not going to do anything. Because this is polygon, so it's not like the Bezier curve isn't happening. It's not being resampled the same way. But yeah, hopefully you get the idea. Yeah, let me copy. I'm going to copy this and just put it in the other file here. There we go. So here's this guy as a reference as well. So okay, all right. Now I think I'm actually done with pipes, and hopefully it don't take as long for everything else. Let's see. I need to export this file. Okay, so the next one, and it looks like the text got cut off. Hold on, let me grab the rest of that text. Okay. All right, so that was pipes. I have no idea how to do this in Houdini. None of the tutorials I've watched touched on this, so that's that one. Okay. Now the other ones of these are more like approaches. So this guy here, like number one, this is kind of an approach to produce number one in the picture. So cube, then extrude, put 4 cylinders in boolean, 4 cubes under it, above the 4 cylinder holes. How do I position a shape perpendicular to the angle of the face? That's a great question. I haven't done this in Houdini, like to where it has like a snapping tool. Shaper has an excellent tool for this. Like it's just built into the editor. There might be one for that. I haven't had the need to do it, but I can see that being really useful. Like it's kind of a pain to always align things mathematically. But that's how I've been doing it. Is like I can find the numbers and the formula, and I just use the math. But there's some angles that are like more awkward, where you want that same snapping effect, and there's got to be a way. So I'll look into that. But your plan here for this, I think, is fine. Like especially for cutting the holes in, using a boolean. That makes total sense. It's like if I get a box, the one thing that actually caught my attention on that with this guy here was the slant. The slant, like right here. So like if you wanted it on one side, I think it's uniform, and you can you can make these slants. Let's see, should I grab this, make it somewhat resemble this shape here? There's so many handles, like I constantly am grabbing the wrong ones. There we go. This is crude, but you know, okay, so this surface here, I'm pretty sure we can select it and transform it. So like if we did this, which isn't, I mean, I feel like it's not like an ideal approach, but primitive edges, okay. I should be able to do, yeah, enter, and then let me see if this works. Yeah, I don't think that works. I think it'll just like tear. It's not like intelligent. Oh, it is. Okay, good. Yeah, so you can kind of like, that's like one way to get the curve. You stack another box on top of it. And so like, you know, to make it more procedural potential, or like to where you have one main shape driving the whole thing, you could kind of do, oh, whoops, do this. Because then whatever size this is will feed into everything else. And so I can kind of drag this guy down. And this is super crude. And then if we like mess with the box, right, then like it kind of, you see how it does break down. Like it's not perfect, but it tries to, you know, follows this uniform. And so you have to like think about that, like the ways it's going to be transformed, and then compensate for those transformations. And so like if it's going to be flexible enough to be reused, then how can it be reused? And yeah, I would do the same thing with the booleans and the pipes. Let me see. But the other question with above the force, how do I position the shape perpendicular to the angle of the face? So I think the position a shape perpendicular to the angle of the face. So like these squares, right? Or are you talking about this, like these little ratchet guys? Because for the most part, as long as it's like flat like this, like you're not having to worry about the snapping. But let's just add these 4 cubes real quick. And what the heck? Let's go ahead and do the whole thing. Let me see. Tube X. Is that right? Yeah. Turn you an X. Let's elongate you. Super long. Scale it down just a nudge. Okay, and so this is like, you know, less mathematical. Actually, I need to make sure I'm seeing this, because this one I'm running against. I'm checking the wrong geo. So I can do like a copy. This one we can like, you can actually, with these copies, you can like drag it too, like that. And so once we have that, we can do the boolean. So that makes sense. So then we have like some holes, and then you can mess with the shapes, right? Like so, the radius. I'm grabbing the wrong radius. That's not the one I wanted. I'm trying to get the oh, of course, that's the radius on this side versus that side. Okay. Yeah, if you want a weird distorted shape, I think you have to do a transform. So like I'd have to do transform, then squish it to get that like sort of off, more oval shape. Scale it on the Y. Yeah, so you kind of get that, you know, other sort of shape going on. Drop the whole thing down. You know, so something like that, and then, you know, we can kind of mess with the distance, you know, here and there. All right, so we have the boolean, and then so okay, this is the perpendicular part where I think, so like say we wanted to put these squares down there. Let me get a look at you. Let's shrink you down to something more manageable. Something like that. Okay, and then, all right, so to get this to snap to the face, this is what I don't know how to do. Like, I wouldn't use a tool here somewhere. Like, there might be something up here that does that, but it looks like a lot of these are just nodes. So, yeah, guided process. So, like, I normally, again, there's probably another way to go about this. There might be like a simple, just like hotkey or something that does this, which I know other modeling programs will do that. The way I would approach it here is this. Actually, I'd come to these numbers on this box size. And so, like, for example, if this guy is, what dimension is that? X dimension? I think that's X dimension. Yeah, so the X dimension is this. So I would grab this parameter here. And if I wanted this to be like more dynamically placed to be like aligned on this face here, then I would put this here. Is this center? I might need to do this. So sometimes it's better to do it on a transform node, but like you can technically just do it on that box node too, but not everything has those transforms. So we can do this translate, and then we paste relative reference. Okay, so now we have this box, like, I can't see it. Let's get it visible. Okay. All right, so this number is probably not right out of the gate, especially because this is not the right number. So you see there's one. Okay. And I think the other thing that's messed up is this center here. So like if we zero this out, I don't want to move the center around. That simplifies the math a little bit. So it's moved out by this space here. Is that the right dimension? I feel like it could be the wrong dimension. X. Okay. All right, so I think the way it's moving is it from the center? So I think it's from the centroid. So like the centroid 0 on this guy. I can't see. Yeah. So I think it's centroid 0. So you can see the 0, 0. So that's the centroid, and that's where it's moving from. So what we've done is we're moving it 2.18 over on the x-axis, and that's like where it ends up. And so like that's not quite right, because this guy here is what we want to run it up against, and I don't see a what should I call it? I don't see like a distortion that would cause it to mess up. Like I would expect it to just be like out, like right here, but it seems to be going out like further. Let's see. Surely that's not affecting it. Let me see. Yeah, okay. All right, good. That's what I wanted to make sure it wasn't affecting that. This guy. So if you move this in, see when it breaks down. So this 0.8, it seems to create a collision. Oh gosh. It just gets further away. So it's like you can't just use that number exactly. So we said 2, just to make it something easier to kind of process in my head. And then over here, this is effectively 2. You can kind of like multiply to find that number to get it to be on its face. And then this bottom part too, this is being translated down. So you can kind of copy this number here, and then we'll drive it down based on that number. So we'll translate it, paste values, I paste value references. Yeah. So then we get this coming down and can kind of mess with the size. Once we mess with the size, it's gonna, let me see, yeah, it's gonna create problems. So like this here, it's like I say I want it to be smaller, right? Let's say 0.5. And you can copy this parameter. So you can kind of get really deep into this. But that's it, like, I don't know, it works for me. Like get this guy. So really it's this one. Probably don't. So like that's one way to approach it. And then you can kind of do the same thing with the copy. You know, you can copy it over. So this could like get it to line up. Now, there's issues that if you try and rotate this, which, you know, usually you wouldn't rotate it up here. Like that's like something to remember is like with all this stuff is while you can do something like this, you probably won't because it breaks down in a lot of ways. What you would do is if you would rotate the whole thing down here. It's like when you choose to do things like really matters when the transforms. So like if you needed to do something like rotate it, then you could move the whole geo and it would be relative to each other, everything up to that point. Um, but yeah, if you were to try and like, you know, rotate something up there, this would break down because it's only considering like these simple dimensions. Okay, so like the Y, maybe that's not strong enough. Should go down further, and so you can like multiply it like 1.1, then it goes a little further. Oh, wrong way. And then, so that's a good way to parameterize it and keep it straight. And then like the copy points. What is it for? Yeah. Let's figure out what the number is on this guy. So like these guys that are copied over, can kind of use them. So this one, do the same thing, and it's gonna, of course, it's not gonna work because they're not in the same starting position, but it just gives us the same splay. Now, to fix this, because it's like off, it's like, what is that? The z-axis is messed up. So we're gonna fix its z-axis by looking at where the heck this tube is at. So like I think it's, because I just like moved it manually, or did I do it here? Scale, yeah, I did it here. So XYZ, so we're gonna grab you, copy parameter, come here to transform, and then we can kind of put you in, see what that does. There we go. So I tend to think of it mathematically, like it resonates with me personally. So like that's how I would do it. In other programs though, like that doesn't work. Like you can't do this. You can't access these values. I think there are some that do function similarly to Houdini. They're out there. But there's more programs like Shaper or Blender or Maya, and they'll have like tools here, and like hotkeys and stuff for snapping. Like yeah, like this grid snapping or primitive snapping. Like this seems like another approach, yet another approach that might actually do it. So like if I were to mess around with that, I imagine it does exist. So let me see here if I can point snapping, primitive snapping, and then I guess I could like drag. Wait, am I doing the right thing here? Hold on, I think it's the wrong thing. Yeah, see that? So like that's like way easier because it's just like snapping. Oh, it didn't do it this way. That's confusing. It just snapped though. Yeah, it's like sticking. I guess if I go this way, it'll stick. Yeah. So it is kind of like trying to snap to it. So you know there are tools for that. So you can kind of mess around with this, and so it's view based and orient on snap. So this orient on snap is probably going to be the most valuable thing because you can like maybe do something like this, and then let's come back to this guy and just change this to orient on snap. Yeah, look at that. It just oriented it to the face. So yeah, that's actually pretty useful for like quickly getting through things. I tend to not use this stuff at all, but I could see it being really useful because yeah, like there have been times when I'm just like struggling to figure out the formulas. Like I'm sitting here fiddling with these numbers, and it's like at what point I'm not even modeling anymore, right? Like I'm just doing math, and the plus side of understanding the math part is that you can create more procedural effects later, like like the pipes that I showed you, or um, the complexity of things that you can automate just grow and grow. And this has limits to like you know, how high you can take it. I still think it's you still need it though, so it's not to disregard it. I think this is very important because at the end of the day, you start out the very top of the geo, you have a simple shape. And then that shape just kind of gets mutated over time in these networks. And so you still have to start with a simple shape. And this right here can help you get that simple shape a lot faster and like just, you know, box it out way, way quicker than if you didn't, you know, have that. So yeah, I would still say it's a win. So anyways, that's a very long-winded answer to question 1. Um, snapping and snapping aligning, I guess I can just call that. Okay. All right, so let's move that guy over here, and then let's see what's okay. So make a curve and apply thickness radial mirror. Exactness to do that. Okay, so 2. This guy, yeah, this one was fun. Make a curve and then radial mirror. Yeah, I think I would do that exact thing. And it's not. I think it's called radial mirror makes sense, but I forget what they call it as well. I think it's called sweep. No, I think it is called sweep actually. No, it's not sweep because sweep would make it consistent. But you could do a copy to points too. That's another way, and with the normals, that could work. Make a curve, apply thickness. Yeah, I think that's the right way to approach this. Like, let's grab a curve, and we're gonna get a circle node. I think I'm gonna use a circle node with copy to points to do this. Let me just kind of draw an arbitrary curve here. Where's that circle at? On here. Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember, should I draw this in the center or not? I think I'll draw in the center. So let me just draw a nice little basic curve guy. I'm gonna hit enter because I don't want to do any more. Let's edit. Let's put a bend on one of you to just have slightly more fun shape. Okay. Then let's do a what is it called? I guess no, I don't really want to do a polywire. I know it's kind of a quick way to do this, but I mean if I draw some thickness into it, that would help. Okay, let me add to this. I just kind of finish this shape out. uh, this is so messed up. I wish I could just delete this handle. Like that's really what I want, but okay, we'll just leave it be for now. Then you can kind of I don't know about that. I don't like that. Let's bend it. There we go. This is not feeling good. I'm not very happy about this, and this is actually going to create issues. We're not exporting it, but still, like, oh gosh. Turn this back into a corner or something. Can you erase that? Stop. Okay, yeah. No, that's not working. Delete the point. Right, that didn't help either. All right, this is a disaster. Let me do another curve. All right. Okay, so start over again. I'm just gonna do. I don't want to mess around with. It's not about the curve. It's about the sweep. So here we go. We got a shape. We can do a poly extrude on this. And you should be able to do it directly. It's a closed shape here, so let's grab this guy. So you're flat. Let's make you cool. All right, we should be able to put in end caps, preserve groups, all that. What is? Oh, I guess that's a separate node. Polycap. And so we should, or polyfill. So you can see how it's like a different name there. All right, so it should be a single polygon now. Okay, cool. So we should have this nice little guy. All right, and then very simply copy the curves and notice that one. So we just kind of see what we get there for free, which target points copy. Okay, so circle from edges. That's not the right node. Okay, so here's a circle. And this is strangely not the dimensions I thought it was going to be. I don't know what that other circle is. It seems like some kind of bug that it's showing that. So let's do ZX plane. Okay. Still don't understand why it's like in that weird spot. Okay, so we have this, and let me extrude this further. I could get more of a resemblance of that shape. Okay, so you can kind of do a copy to points there, and then we can mess around with the rotation transform to fix that. There we go. So let's just straighten this guy out a little bit. It's going to be one of these dimensions. So this is, it's rotating it on this terrible, because it's all one unit, like all this geo, so it has like a sort of shared centroid. But if I'm guessing right, the centroid appears to be 0, like just 0, 0 in the world origin. Looks like it's rotating around that. So it might be better to transform the curve before doing any of that, so we can kind of mess with this and see what we get. Still feels terrible. Let's do like 90. So that's upside down. 180. No, 270. I should have known. Okay, so there's that, and this circle is conveniently placed. I don't know why it's displaying like I didn't. I think it's a bug because I deleted that node and it's still showing, but it's convenient right now that it's there, so I'm just gonna kind of use it. You can translate it over because I drew it, by hand. It's not at like the actual world origin. It's like when we create a cube, so we can manually correct that now. It's best to, just rule of thumb with Houdini, like it's best to just keep the original geo at world origin as much as possible. It makes things a lot better for you later, because that's not it. There you go. So that sort of corrects the manual draw effort there. And so, okay, now we have that normal problem where it's not facing the normal direction. And so figuring that out again, but for this problem. So like we have it over here, this like polyframe thing. So we can try that and see if that works. So let's see, I don't know, polyframe. So this one's going to be interesting because like I think it's not going to do what we expect. Change in name. I don't care about changing it. I don't really know. Okay, let me see. What was it? What were the options over here? 2 edges in. See, I had a carve node, so maybe the carve node is needed to. No, it wasn't over here. Offset point. So we ran a poly bevel to. I think that initialized the normals. Did that? No, it didn't. Yeah, that one's just for smoothing. Okay, so what's so different about the circle versus the curve? Because it should, at the end of the day, just be a list of points, right? Like there's not really anything fancy going on. Like it just a circle node just sets up some points and connects them as lines. That's all it does. So we should be able to do the same kind of formula here. And so I can copy the whole thing, and maybe that'll do something. Like let's try, just test it out and see if this gets the job done. Get some kind of semblance of control over. Yeah, so that it's got normals now. You kind of see that. They're still not facing the way that we would want. I could probably run a wrangle on. There we go. So there we go. So now we have something. That's not exactly what we want, but it's, you can see like the normals are the issue at this point. So there's an orient that where we can change the orient and get it to face the direction. Let me see if I can find. So you can probably mess with this too. So there's that. Wow, that looks really crazy. I guess the normals on this guy, we had to. We could pack it each one. Let me see. Hold on. Alpha covered points. Let me see if this one has something different. Guessing it looks the same. I guess like the default behavior. So we have to like, dive in and understand this. Mess around with this guy. See, the carve does do something, and I just don't know exactly what it's doing. Offset points. So these offset points here, those are the new points that are made by the bevel, which we don't particularly want. Create any number of these. We can almost like, cheaply mess with the rotation here and get it to work. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like you can kind of do that. It's kind of a neat visualization. So you do 0. So now, like if I have no rotation, it seems okay. All right, so it seems to have zeroed it out just fine. That's handy. Let me see if I can translate you. Yeah, this is translating the whole unit, which is. And can I get? Trying to get the There it is. Okay. There we go. And then this should be able to do an individual axis. This should work on an individual axis level, but I think, yeah. So -90 here, or I think 270 will make it the same. Yeah. So this is like a way to approach it. It's kind of the same thing, same problem, like the numbers, like figuring out the right numbers and which node to like mess with. But you can, once you get this, then there's a lot of control. Like now I can be like, okay, I want these to be thinner and more numerous. You can come over here and be like, and now you have like a slightly different design. And I was like, okay, I hate this curve. Like I want it to be cooler. You can come back to the curve, and let me see, actually. Come back to the original curve here and then mess with it. And as long as you're not moving the whole thing, then it's not too devastating, but you can actually just like add points or manipulate where'd you go? Yeah, I want this guy. So like, maybe I want, and there's the wonkiness, Control Z, you just gotta kind of get used to that. Like, all right, I want my curve to be more dramatic. Then you come back here and now you have, it just matches. And so it's pretty neat. And of course this can get much more sophisticated, like that shape. And this is actually a bad shape, it's tearing. But you can get much more sophisticated shapes. And so yeah, that's a way to approach number 2 there. This little like these radial patterns. The problem with the radial patterns are the rotations, and so figuring out the normals is an issue. So this polyframe and carve like allow for some kind of cheating with that. So you can kind of see like on or off it does something. I can't tell you exactly what it does. I'm gonna need to go read it. But just you kind of keep this algorithm here, and then that's a way to deal with it. There again, sure that there's another way to do it as well. So it's all, especially in Houdini land. radial 2A radial patterns. Okay, so let's put 2A up there. And then, so 3. This guy is going to be very similar, and I actually like exactly what you did. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Like, you just did a tube and then some squares with, yeah, like you resized the rectangles and then you did the radial thing. Like, yeah, that totally works. You know, you don't even always need copy to points. Like, I use a circle here to do copy to points, and maybe I should have mentioned because it's the same sort of deal. Let me see here. It's called copy stamp, I think. Yeah, very similar. It's a very similar node. So so 2A and 3A. So I guess there's a couple of approaches here. So there's this copy stamp. So if we look at this guy, now he's dead center. We might want to undo that transform. So this one's slightly different. So we can have this number of copies and whatever, I'll make 20, right? And then we're going to do this like transform. So this one's harder to work with. And sometimes like, so if you can do, let me see, rotation. Yeah, see if I can find it. If you can find a number, let me see, like yes, okay. So sometimes I'll do it like this, but then you have to change this pivot transform and see if I can get this to work. It's a little challenging. And it's sometimes it makes sense to use this. So it's not like I'm maybe doing a bad example right now, but all right, so see how I've pivoted the translation away. And then I've got this rotation. So you can accomplish similar effects with this. And I've done this with like the fan and stuff. So you can see here. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. So this works as well. It is a much better example in this wind engine here. Let me find the fan blades. Wind vane. Yeah, the wind vane I probably do it. So like, you know, it has all this polywire and stuff. Line, curve. Wire. Where's the fans? Yeah, this guy. So we look at this guy. To get that, there's like some wires, but then I think there's just this box and this is a copy stamp node here. Yeah, this is a copy stamp node. So like here's an example of using copy stamp where, you know, all I did was just create this box. I put it in a weird spot, like a weird position, and then I just did a 20-degree rotation on it. And it's not even, you know, it's just running on the 0. So it's not even I didn't have to manipulate anything here. But also I didn't hand draw this. So that's something to keep in mind. When you hand draw things, that can mess with stuff. Like it can depict, because you're not going to be able to get it perfect axis, 0. Or you have to tick around with it, right? Like, so here with this, like, you know, I was able to just, you know, so that's, this is a kind of another way, which I'll copy this and put in that file too. I'm going to export this at the end of the video. So, yeah, so this one's probably a kind of a better example or use case for the copy stamp. So radial patterns, yeah. So like the way you went about it here is like, yeah, I would do the same thing there. Okay, for this guy, yeah, cylinder and cube shaped like a triangle. Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, yeah, you can fuse it together even. Yeah, creating triangles. I think there's a the triangles can be done a couple ways. So you can do poly extrude the circle, which seems ridiculous, right? Like in some ways. So here's this. Yeah, it doesn't have the cap, which I don't think. So this is kind of like messy, I guess. Like in a way, you have to do all this extra stuff. And then you can just like mess with the divisions. So that can get a triangle. There's another one called, I think, polygon. No, there isn't one called polygon. I know there's something. It's like a primitive shape. Let me see here. Primitive. You can get it with the tube. Okay, maybe it's platonic solid. I think that can get, oh, I guess it's not exactly a triangle. So, a tetrahedron, cube. So yeah, there's this. These can be handy. They're less useful for sure. Like I don't think I've ever used the platonic before. But I mean, I don't know, this doesn't really help. It doesn't get a triangle anyways. Yeah, so never mind. So not platonic. Yeah, the other way to make a triangle too is like a tube. So you can pretty much do the whole thing with tubes because whereas the columns here, yeah, so you can run that down too, and it has like the end caps. So this is like one node, and you'll see a lot in my geo. I use tubes a lot because it has like the end caps baked into it, and a lot of times you can even get a rectangle with it. In some cases that this is fine. So it's it's very similar to using the box one, but less controls, which tends to be favorable because I like to use the transform node anyways to try and manipulate more complexities in position. So yeah, so this works for triangles, and then yeah, of course, like the rest of it, like, the rest of it's good. So yeah, that was easy one. Two for a triangles. Which I guess they're not triangles. I guess technically they're polygons, triangular polygons. Yeah, and I guess, oh yeah, you said cube shaped like a triangle. I guess you can get it with a cube too, huh? Um, let's see. I don't think I've done it with a cube before, but surely axis divisions, maybe mess around with this and, okay, no, that's not it. Polygon mesh, polygon points, nerves, no. Okay, I haven't done that before. So if there's probably, I guess there's a way to do it with a cube. I haven't done it, but yeah. I would choose a cylinder for the whole thing, like all that. Oh shoot, yeah, all that stuff. These could all be cylinders, even the triangular shape. Okay, pipes. It did that one. Complicated shapes. Yes. So this one. I'm gonna cut here, and then I'm gonna come back and talk to that specifically. All right, bud. To your final question, which is complicated shapes like this feel so difficult to do in Houdini. How would you make shapes like this? All right, so 6, and we got the actual geo here. Let's pull it up. Let's just take a look at it. Okay, so first thing, you're absolutely right, which I think I mentioned this in the very beginning of the video, but wanted to recap it that Houdini is very good at doing repetitive things for you, like really fast, and for generating like even sophisticated patterns that are repetitive, right? So like something like these um, pipes are really good. Something like hair, feathers, these like radial patterns here are perfect, and so a lot of it can be done in Houdini, and you could even this entire engine itself could be interchangeable and swapped and connected, right? Like this box could maybe have different options. This centerpiece could have different options. Like the pipes could be different shapes, sizes, colors, and which, by the way, this is lovely geometry. Excellent work that's done here. Like this is awesome. And like just the positioning of things in the pipes and like the interconnectivity. You can swap out. If you think of the anatomy of this engine, you could just like swap out these pieces. So like these little end caps here and the screw shapes and gears and all of that. Like that's where Houdini would excel with. And whenever you get to like more sophisticated shapes, like maybe a head or a beak, then you can start to run into issues. So let me show an organic shape that I didn't make in Houdini because it was. All right, so let me pull this out here. All right, so this guy, the head and the beak both were sculpted. This was not made in Houdini. Um, I do think it probably could have been made in here, but this was before I knew about it, so I was using my iPad to like model, and yeah, so so there's an example of something I just imported in, and because it I had no idea how to approach um, doing organic shapes, and so I just did it with my finger, and trial and error, and eventually got something that was respectable there. So I think it's okay. Like don't have to do everything in here. There is a sculpt tool, and so we can kind of. I don't feel like this is the right use case for a sculpt tool, though. Like Houdini does have sculpt. I don't know how to use it. I have used groom like for hair, and so I do know how to use that, and that works pretty well. It's basically like manipulating wires, and you have different brushes you can use to like comb and like align different hairs. But this piece in particular, I think could be done with a curve node or a draw node even. So what I see when I look at this angle is it's kind of an awkward shape. Like, yeah, you're not going to be able to get this pretty easily with primitives, and you can't do it with boolean cuts. So what I would do is start with a curve, and let me get a good angle. I want that angle. What is that? Top, front. I guess this is going to be like what, right or something? Yeah, looks like it's right. Yeah, so here's the shape here. So I'm just going to draw right on top of it. Let me come here. So I can kind of cheat a little bit because you already did this. I can turn that off. I don't want it to be snapping. So I'm going to come here, here, and I think I can do this with just 3 points. And click on edit mode, go here, put on this guy, and let it do its freak out. Sort of start it out. So this isn't super great because it's not exactly the shape, but yeah, getting kind of close. All right, so there's that for a start. Then we can do poly extrude, and then we'll do a boolean to cut out the center piece there. And so, so here's that, and I don't know how far out this needs to go. Maybe like, maybe that's good. We'll come back and mess with it later if it's not. All right, so it has like a tube running through it, and so that'll be easy to make. But we want to get that cut, right? So the cut we're going to do with a box and a boolean. And so when I have these like shapes that I don't know how to plan for mathematically, like I don't know what the numbers are, not even close, right? So I could just don't even bother trying to guess, and I come in here, and it's really a mood. Like sometimes I'm in a mood to figure out the numbers, and sometimes I'm just not. So here's an issue. When I create this primitive, it's way over here in the 0 space, and like I was saying earlier, it's best to try and create custom geo in close to 0, like on 0 as much as possible. But over here I had a guide, and I was using existing geometry to kind of run myself. And so I haven't found a great way to do this except to just put a transform node, and you have two options. You either move this box over to the estranged geo that you created, or you move the curve back, which I think there's pros and cons. The pros of leaving the curve where you drew it is that when you edit it here, then you get to see it here. The cons are that it can get more sophisticated depending on what operations you're performing on that geo after the fact. So you kind of have to pick your poison. Like, but this, I can move this over and get it to world center, but I'm still eyeballing it, right? So like there's 0. So that's one option. Alternatively, I can do this over, but I want to show you like kind of a consequence of doing this. So I have the poly extrude down here, right? But say I want to edit this and look at the polygon. Well, having multiple screens really helps like this, but that's why I constantly have it up. But if I want to come edit this curve, well, now I can't edit it right here because this is the transformed location, and so I have to come back to the original drawing, which is still up here. So it can kind of get weird. And this is a poison I tend to take. I tend to choose this this option. But if you don't like that, then you can, do the transformation over here instead. And that can be, moved over here. And you're kind of, you're dealing with a manual operation anyways. So, it's, I think either way it's okay. So you can see it's like cutting into this. And so so like if I wanted to mess with the original shape here, I can, but same deal. It's like way over here. And so you have to kind of like find a way to look at both, and it can be tedious. So, you gotta pick your poison. Let's scale this down by the axis, right axis. Okay, so yeah, let's go here. So maybe we're gonna slide them over here. It's still too thick. Like that, right? And so we're starting to get the shape. We want some space there. So let's pull this guy down. You don't want it cutting through the top. And we do want it blasting through, so we can go shink. There we go. And then, of course, some tweaks and stuff based on what you want. So that's one boolean up. Then the next one we can do, what is it called? This tube. Yeah. I keep wanting to type in cylinder, but that's not the right. I think they call it tube in here. Okay. Right, so then same deal with the tube. The tube is being made at 0, and we have to like move it over. So there's like a number of ways to kind of go about it. And cap, I'm just gonna drag them right over. So this one I didn't even bother with the transform. I'm just manipulating it straight. And so, I could have done that with the box. There's just so many ways to skin the cat. Go with the size we want. Just what I like is being able to do this real time and like see it, so you can mess around with this and see the results. It looks like it's tripping out pretty bad. See when it's doing that negative shape thing? It shouldn't be doing that. Something's not manifold. Let's see. Oh, okay. Poly extrude. Did I put caps on you? Probably not. Yeah, we need to do a poly cap. There we go. Yeah, so if it doesn't have a cap, then it's a non-manifold geo, and it just creates weird behaviors like that. So after seeing it a million times, gotten used to being able to sleuth out what's causing it. But it can be really obnoxious to troubleshoot that. So then now we can just kind of mess around with, how deep we want the cut, and how wide we want it, all that stuff. Wider, thinner. Yeah, and you can kind of come up with names for this stuff. You can come up with variable names, and people that are very organized with Houdini, what they'll do is they would just make, I don't want to say a whole file, but they would have an individual HDA for this model itself, and it would have all these parameters exposed, and then you could sit there and tweak with it, and it's like convert this into an HDA. Like, let me see. I actually don't remember how to make an HDA anymore. I think it has to be like up here. Save to gallery. I think you can do this. Oh yeah, create digital asset. So like if you could pull this out into its own little guy here, create a digital asset, and then there is a node, which I think I have. I made one. Oh gosh, I'm not gonna be able to find it. I've made one HDA, and I don't remember what it did. Obviously I don't use it very much, so I can't remember. But I think I just did it to understand like how they were done. And so I found that it wasn't super. Oh yeah, here he is. There's a gear builder and tech gear. And so one of these was I got from the internet, and then another one I made myself. So can't remember which one's which, but yeah. So yeah, I think this is the one from the internet. And so it has all these parameters and stuff, and you can like mess around with this geo and yeah, get it to, I think it's not the most intuitive thing. So it has some parameters you can mess with. I mean, this is, yeah, there we go. So it has like bevel built into it, and chamfer, screws. I should add some screws. So yeah, it's got this like, it's a gear builder, and you can do stuff here that screws it up. Like, you know, because ultimately at the end of the day, yeah, check it out. That was easy. See, so like their radial copy algorithm isn't perfect, and you can add so many screws that the divisions versus the like size of them, like it's not able to kind of cope with it. And so, you know, we can make tools like this too. Like you can set up your own parameters and you can link them to things so that it's not called transform scale X dimension, right? And you're able to say, give it something intelligible that makes sense to you, which could be like, I don't know, the bolt grip width, or you know, whatever the anatomy is of this geometry. So yeah, that'll work. And then, oh yeah, if we want to put it back through, because we cut the hole right, so we can say merge, and we can run the same tube through it, and then like now we have it, you know, run through. So we use it to negate it, and then we just shove it right back through, and we can, you know, make it smaller or whatever. But yeah, that here is item 6. And so hopefully this is helpful, and it gets you past the kind of questions or any hangups that you've got, and just like also demystifying Houdini as it's like a magical tool. Like they kind of advertise it and they're like, yeah, this is super magical, but it's also easy to learn. But you know, the truth is, if you're coming from another modeling program, it's not always easier. Like it's excels at certain things, and it's just not the greatest at other things. And I use it exclusively at this point because I'm trying to master like the procedural creation stuff and really understand the math, and just get better at managing data and geometry at the same time. So that's the main reason why I've tried to do everything in it as much as possible. But at that same note, I don't try and create full-fledged human models in here. So like I'll create mostly mechanical things in here, and I am going to start getting into slightly more biological looking designs, um, like animalistic stuff. But they still kind of have like a, you know, steampunk metallic feature. Like they're not like fully organic. There are people who do that, um, but I'm just not there yet. So yeah, I'll get there. Yeah, I think I will get there. Because I'm just determined to learn this and use it, and it has saved me a lot of time. So enjoying it so far. Q&A 6 questions. There we go. So I'm gonna export this file to you, and then you can run through this, and yeah, that should do it.